Oh hey, didn't see you there. You may wonder why it's January and I've got sunglasses on and I'm reading a summer romance book. It's because I'm delusional. So we're gonna roll with it. I've decided that reality is what I make it. So we're gonna be reading summer romances this week. I got 3 ready to go, including Till Summer Do Us Part, 2 on my Kobo. And yeah, we're gonna be reading some summer romances because we're gonna pretend that it's summer because I have seasonal depression. Let's go inside. I'm very cold, and I'm not going to be talking about these books for 10 minutes out here, so I'm not that delusional. All right, so I'm going to chat with you about Till Summer Do Us Part now that we're inside, and I actually have a cardigan on, and I'm being a little bit sane. So I have not started reading it yet. This book is about Scotty, and she started a new job. And of course, when you're in your new job, you want to fit in. So she expects going into this job, it's going to be a lot of guys who are bachelors and they're focused on their career and they don't care about family, etc. But everyone there ends up being happily married. So she decides, against her better judgment, to fib a little bit and say that she's married. And then when someone points out that she doesn't have a ring on, she says that she's unhappy in her marriage. And then it devolves because her boss is like, well, I know this great marriage counselor and you should go to this marriage retreat. Apparently, everyone is going to this marriage retreat, but she has to then figure out who she's going to ask to be her husband. It's very much a fake dating, fake marriage trope, which I think is super fun and I like. Her best friend enlists the help of his brother, who is really into improv and acting, but he's also randomly a billionaire, which I'll forgive him for that for now. I'm not a huge fan of billionaires, but it seems like it'll be really fun. He's going to be playing Scotty's husband in this marriage retreat that she has to go to so that her boss and all of her coworkers don't know that she's lying, which sounds ridiculous and very rom-com-y, and I'm really excited about this one. I also have Here We Go Again by Alison Cochrun, which I'm very excited about. Alison Cochrun wrote Kiss Her Once for Me, one of the only Christmas books that I think I ended up giving it 5 stars. So Here We Go Again is about, I think it's like a second chance romance. It's a sapphic romance where there's 2 people who used to be best friends and would band it against their conservative town when they were in high school, ended up as rivals. Their favorite, most beloved English teacher that they both love is dying and wants to do a cross-country road trip to kind of like send himself off, I guess, and enlists both of their help. So Logan and Rosemary are the 2 women that have to go on this road trip with their beloved English teacher from high school and each other who they now hate. I am really excited. I know a lot of people don't like road trip books, but I think it's going to be super fun and very summery, and I really like Alison Cochrun's writing. She did really, really well with Kiss Her Once for Me, so I'm really excited about that. And then the last book, Problematic Summer Romance, is the one that I'm pretty sure everyone already read this past summer. I did not. This is going to be my first Ellie Hazelwood that is not paranormal romance, so I'm excited about that. But this is about a man and a woman, Maya and Connor. I think Maya's brother decides to get married in Italy, so she ends up stuck with Connor in this villa. Connor is like 20 years older than she is. Any sort of romance is kind of taboo a little bit because he's so much older than her. I think she's in her mid to late 20s, I hope. Otherwise, this is going to be a really awkward book for me to read, and I'm not going to be comfortable with it. It's like a destination wedding summer romance with a guy that you're not supposed to be falling in love with because he's so much older than you. And I think that one's going to be really fun, as long as it's not a creepy amount of time and as long as she's old enough to not have a huge power imbalance. We'll see how that one goes. But all 3 of these, I think I have a really good lineup. I'm going to be living vicariously through our main characters in these books and imagining that it's summer, because right now it's literally like 20 degrees outside. There's snow on the ground. I live in the Midwest and I'm going through it. January is not a fun month. Let's go ahead and start reading. I think I'm going to start with Here We Go Again because I got it from the library and it's going to be sent back in like a week. So fate has decided that I'm going to be reading Here We Go Again first. All right, so I have actually made it 32% of the way into Here We Go Again, and I have thoughts, as I always do. And if I'm looking down, I'm looking at my notes because in the new year, I'm being organized. We're going to see how long that lasts. But so I like the premise. It's pretty unique. We have Rosemary, who is like type A, perfectionist, has to do everything perfectly. And Logan, who she is much more laid back. They're both English teachers at the school that they went to when they were kids, and they both have their old English teacher as their mentor. And he has cancer, and it's terminal. He wants them to take him across the country to pass away in Maine, where he has a cabin, I guess. And they hate each other. The two women hate each other because of something that happened at a party in high school, and we don't know what that is at first. I like the premise. I think it's fun. Getting into like the first third of the story, I feel a camaraderie with Rosemary because she's very anxious. She catastrophizes things all the time. She feels like her worth is tied up with her ability to excel in school and just academically in general. And I've had to work pretty hard to try and divorce myself from that. And I think that she's going to have to do that too. I mean, she's out of school now. She's a teacher. She's a high school English teacher, but she still feels that perfectionism. There's a cat. Hello. So she's very much still a perfectionist, and she's trying to plan everything about this road trip to try and get them there fastest. The mentor, I think his name, they call him Joe, Logan, want to kind of take their time and see the sights and everything, and she's having a lot of trouble with that. I really like that. I love celebrating English teachers. I at one point thought I might want to be one, but now with AI and everything, there's no way I would ever be a teacher. It's just too much to deal with, dealing with people not writing their own papers and things like that. Anyway, there's one thing that really bothers me that may honestly knock off an entire star for me. Well, there's two things that bother me. One, which is less pertinent as we go along, Logan assumes that Rosemary is straight and keeps mentioning things, being like, but you're straight, you don't have to worry. And it's like, first of all, who are you to like tell people what they are and what they aren't? It bothers me because as a queer person who may not always come off as queer, the fact that you have to perform that for some people or else you're not seen as part of that community is really bothersome to me. So I don't like seeing that in a book. And then the other thing that is so egregious, and I don't care about cringe most of the time, but this is just annoying. Logan will cuss using like queer icons or just like queer pop culture. At one point she says Tegan and fucking Sarah, and then at another point she goes Demi fucking Lovato. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Can you not cuss normally? It's always some sort of pop culture reference or like gay culture reference, and I'm like, this is so cringy in a way that it's not like, oh, I'm fun, I'm being myself. It's cringy. No, it's just cringy, and it's driving me absolutely nuts. And I wish she would just say fuck on its own. That's all the notes I have so far. I'm still pretty early on into it. I'm really enjoying the dynamic between the two women and, you know, their teacher who he's dying. He doesn't give a shit about anything. He's, you know, got prescription weed, and it's just, it's a funny dynamic. But I feel kinship with Rosemary and her inability to just let things happen. She has to plan for everything. And I like Logan, except for the weird, cringy cussing. We'll let you know how it goes. I'm getting through this pretty quickly. All right, so I surprisingly got through a lot of Here We Go Again. Today I was able to do some shelving at my job and was able to listen to an audiobook. So I did listen to some of that and also read during my breaks. So I am like 85% of the way through now, but I did take notes as I was going along, so you can see what my thought process was as I was going through. When I was about halfway through, I was realizing I was getting a little bit frustrated because I didn't feel like I had enough backstory between the two main characters and how they became friends and more of their backstory. And unfortunately, that still hasn't changed. So it's not a huge deal, but it's just something that I noticed, and I wish we would have got more maybe flashbacks. We didn't really get any so far. It definitely feels very summery. It's a summer road trip book. It's perfect for what I'm going for, which is being delusional and feeling like it's summer. A road trip in the summer is perfect for that, and I really like those vibes. There are some things that feel like really unrealistic that keep taking me out of the story, which again, the cussing where it's like Tegan and fucking Sarah or Haley fucking Kyoko. I'm like, come on guys, this is a little bit too cheesy, even for a rom-com. So far, I do feel like maybe this should be listed as general fiction just because it deals with a lot of difficult things like someone dying of cancer and dealing with grief and homophobia and transphobia and all of these things. And I do think it maybe should be listed more as general fiction, but that's just my own opinion. The audiobook narrator, there was a part where one of the characters sang, and I think all the gods in the world that the narrator did not sing for that part. I was very happy about that. And although a lot of this is cringy so far, I do feel like there's a lot of like queer LGBTQ joy that is being shown that a lot of books don't show. And I am really enjoying that part. I think the ending is what's gonna cinch it either as a 4 or a 3.75 for me. It just depends. But it's definitely not going to be a 5 just because like the whole queer cussing thing is so cringy that it just takes me out of the story. And I don't know. But I do really like the summer vibes for it. I do really like the summer vibes. It's definitely not a 5, but I am really having fun with it. And I didn't realize I would get as far through it as I have. And I will probably catch up with you on this book once I've finished it because I'm very, very close to the end. So we will be finishing that book and then on to the next one. And I'll see you guys in the morning probably. So I finished Here We Go Again by Alison Cochrun, but I decided to do a little bit of a voiceover for my wrap up for this book just because I'm not feeling my best today and I don't want to be on camera until a little bit later today. So I hope you understand. But also I needed to do some crocheting. I really needed to start this project. Don't judge me too much for when I fumble with my crochet stuff. I have chronic illnesses and my hands don't always work. So Here We Go Again by Alison Cochrun. I did end up really liking it. I did push it up to a 4 from a 3.75, which originally is what I was going to give it. There were some things that I had talked about before, like with the cussing or a couple of other things that kind of bothered me that made me not give it a 5. But I do still think that the writing was really good, and I think that she handled death really well. I do kind of wonder still if this should be considered a general fiction rather than a rom-com, just because the heaviness of some of the topics. There were a couple times where I chuckled out loud, but it wasn't really super funny. So I don't know. That's just my opinion. I am glad that I read this. I do think she handled death really well. I did cry at the end, but take that with a grain of salt because I've been weepy lately just because I've, had a friend pass away and, I'm kind of sensitive about those things right now. Definitely check trigger warnings if you want to read this, but overall I think it was really fun. I do think it was a little bit fantastical as far as going through the entire across the US and not dealing with they did mention something in Texas about being scared to stop places, but being openly queer in a lot of states in the US right now is not really safe, and this might not have been as much of the case when this book was written, so I'll give the author that, but just something to think about. It didn't feel super realistic that they didn't have a full-on confrontation with people throughout most of the book, so you never know what's going to happen, especially in the South and the Midwest. But there are open-minded people in those states, in those areas. I am one of them. I'm part of the LGBTQ community. We are out here. We do exist. But it is not realistic that they didn't really experience much of that. Giving it a 4. We're going to be starting the next book, which I will come to you on camera to talk about. And I hope that you enjoyed this little voiceover. All right, so unfortunately, this book is absolutely getting DNF'd. I am 87 pages in, and I just literally couldn't do it anymore. I have some notes that I was delusional. This is just a vlog where I'm delusional in thinking that I would be able to get through this book. So from the beginning, my first impressions of this book, Till Summer Do Us Part, there was a lot of talking heads syndrome, and not the band, unfortunately, and like white room syndrome. The author does not set the scene very well. Anytime that there's any sort of dialogue in this book, there's nothing else going on. It's like everything stops for these people to talk to each other, which isn't realistic at all, and it completely takes you out of the story. There's a couple like funny passages, I guess you would call it, that have some funny banter, but I was a little bit taken aback by some of it at first. Like, these people just met one day ago and they're making jokes about some really weird things. And I didn't see any sort of chemistry at all, even in the very beginning. Like, the things that our main character thinks and the things that she says to people are completely separate. Like, there's no continuity at all. Like, I understand wanting to hold back what you actually think a little bit, especially when you've just met somebody. But then there's also the fact that you're completely obfuscating what you actually feel. At the beginning, this isn't really a spoiler, she meets him and she tells the male main character, you know, you weren't what I expected. When in her head, she's like, he's hot. He's got like this beanie. What it reminds me of is MySpace boys in 2007 when I was in high school, like the scene MySpace kids. That's who this main character, what's his name again? Wilder, no. That man has a trust fund and is going to ruin your life. And then she tells him, like, she basically insinuates that he's sloppy at the beginning because she expected him to be like more put together. It just felt like it just wasn't good. It felt like I've read some really good fan fiction. I've read bangers in my time. I did my time when I was in high school where I read Orlando Bloom fan fiction and Legolas and Aragorn fan fiction. I don't want to talk about it. Those were really well written, and I would cry at like the sad parts. And so you don't have an excuse. This is just bad. I don't know who it's fan fiction of, but it reminds me of a bad fan fiction writer. I don't know if it's a self-insert or what, but there's also the fact that they talk about native deodorant and Jeeps, and like it felt like an undisclosed sponsorship. I literally am like, is this author getting paid to put these in her book and is not saying it? So I'm like, why are you mentioning the brand of deodorant? That completely takes me out of the story. There's weird allusions to pop culture, which is fine off and on, but I feel like it dates books really badly, and I think it can be done well. Like, I think Vera Wong has done it well. Jessie Sutanto, she does that really well, where it's like, yes, you can tell it's supposed to be set in like the 2020s, but it's probably going to age well. This is not. My last note says IDK, not sure about this book. And you know it's a death knoll for a book when I start going on Storygraph and looking up all of the reviews of people who rated it like 3 stars or under and see why they did it and see if I am thinking the same way as a lot of people or if I'm just nuts. Because I could not get past 20% of this book. That's how bad it was. I don't get why people like this. Also, you were never going to get me to like a billionaire as a love interest. It's just not going to happen. You don't become a billionaire ethically. There's no possible way. Maybe a millionaire, sure. You don't become a billionaire ethically. You are screwing somebody over. I don't care what billionaire you think is philanthropic, including like Bill Gates. He does so much philanthropy because of the whole... Look up what he did to Netscape. If you're younger and you don't know what he did to Netscape and the people who created Netscape, it only exists as like a relic because Mozilla Firefox now exists, and I don't know. I'm not going to get into that right now. But there are no ethical billionaires. And that includes a love interest. I don't care if he likes green roofs, like roofs that are good for the environment. You having that much money is bad for the environment. it's bad for people. And I'm never going to like you as a main character. I'm sorry. No, actually, no, I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry whatsoever. I have to go into work. I have a migraine, so I'm already not having a great day. My rant is over. This book is getting unhauled, and I wish I didn't waste time on it. It's okay. You live and you learn, so I'll see you guys very soon. Good morning. It is a dreary day, so the lighting's probably going to be a little bit weird, but I wanted to move on to the next book in my vlog, and that is going to be Problematic Summer Romance by Allie Hazelwood. This is going to be my first Allie Hazelwood that is not part of the Bride series, so I'm interested to see what her books are like. I know people have a lot of problems with her. Tiny woman and huge man is like all that she does as far as describing the main characters. It's very straight, it's very heteronormative, but I do like the idea of like STEM romances because I'm in STEM, you know, I'm in UX design, which is part of tech. So this could be something that I like. They are going to a wedding in Italy, so in the summer, so it's got, I assume, very summery vibes. And yeah, I'm just going to enjoy this. I do have some stuff I need to do today. It's my day off and it's the last Friday before I start classes. So there's a bunch of stuff that I need to get done. I need to go grocery shopping. I also got, these are just little hooks to put on, but I got new lights for my bookshelf because my cats, when they're wanting to get fed, they know how to be, like literally, they know how to annoy me, do things that will make me pay attention to them. They're like toddlers. So they have chewed on my lights and there's still a very small string of them that work, but I had to throw away the other ones because they just don't work anymore. But yeah, I'm also gonna be starting Problematic Summer Romance. I did already start like a chapter of it just to see, make sure I didn't want to not read it after the fiasco that I had with the last book, but it seems like it's gonna be okay. I'll give you some real first impressions once I'm a little bit further into it, but so far it's not as bad. So far it seems like it might be something that I like. So I'm gonna read and then I'll give you my first impressions. She just said, "Fuck it, we ball." What? Okay, so I blinked and I'm somehow 30% of the way through this book. I don't know how it happened. I'm 27% of the way through officially. I'm not sure how I feel. I do think I like it so far. I did have some first impressions that were less than stellar, but I'll just go through what I was thinking in the first third of the book and let you know. It starts out with them heading to Italy. Everyone's going to be meeting up for a destination wedding for the main character's brother. His name is Eli. The main character, female main character, her name is Maya. She's really anxious about seeing Connor because at the beginning we don't know what's going on between them, but there's some weird thing. They have a history. This is the first Allie Hazelwood that I've read. I think I told you that. Like, I have only read her Omegaverse stuff, so I don't know if this is normally how she writes or it's just like it was a weird chapter, but it felt a little bit like she had a thesaurus open next to her. Instead of just saying that he was like rigid or whatever, she's talking about Connor. He's rigid and stubborn and unmoving, but she said sclerotic, which I feel like it's not necessary. I am not a stranger to using words that I feel like describe something better. They just happen to be a quote unquote larger word or more complicated word than most people would use. If it fits what you're trying to explain perfectly, I understand and that makes sense to me. The issue that I get is when people sound like they're reading from a thesaurus just to make it sound more intelligent or better. It comes across as disingenuous, and I feel like a lot of the times when people don't like when people use larger words, it's because they're using it in a way that's doesn't go with the flow of the conversation that you're having. And I feel like Allie Hazelwood did that a couple times in the beginning. As I went chapter by chapter, that got a little bit better, so it wasn't as bad. My first impression of Connor I assume he's going to be the love interest, he's a douche. He is not a nice guy. Our main character, she is like very, very smart, of course. She works in STEM and she's in, I think, grad school right now. So she's very intelligent. Her brother Eli had to take care of her because their parents died. That is told very early on. And she kind of had some issues as a teenager after her parents died, as you would. Especially as someone who's highly intelligent, she just really doesn't know what to do with that information and do with that change in her life and that grief. So she acted out a lot. Eli is a lot older than her, so he ended up basically being her parent. So it makes sense that it would be a problematic summer romance if Connor, Eli's best friend, is in love or dating a 24-year-old and he's, 40, I think, at this point. It is a little bit iffy for me. I feel like there's not much in common. It makes a little bit more sense, I guess, if it's like your brother's best friend, but it is kind of weird if she was like 13, like when they first met. I don't know. It is a little bit weird and problematic, hence problematic summer romance. We'll see how it continues on, but Connor's Irish, of course, because for some reason every romance book I pick up lately, the male love interest, if there's a love interest and he's a guy, he's going to be Irish for some reason. I don't know if I'm subconsciously picking those up, if I'm thinking about Hosier too much, I don't know, but it's weird. I do think some of the issues that I had at the very beginning of this, a couple of them are ironed out. I am curious as to how Allie Hazelwood is going to deal with the very large age gap. She's an adult and it's not like she's 18, she's in her 20s, but it's just interesting. It does make me a little bit uncomfortable just because they're probably in such different points in their lives, and he knew her when she was a child, which is weird. I understand there's certain parts where like a lot of her brother's friends still treat her like she is a child and say she needs to be at the kids' table and all this stuff, and that's really frustrating to me as someone who, not really anymore, but I'm the youngest of my siblings, and I was always on the younger end of my group of like cousins and everything. And even when you're an adult, people still treat you a little weird. I don't think my family ever did that, but I used to always be like the youngest person in a group. That's not the case anymore, but I still remember what that felt like, where people don't take you seriously even though you're an adult. I am annoyed on her behalf. But I mean, I got through almost 30% of it in less than an hour. So that shows just how readable it is. That's the one thing that I've noticed with Allie Hazelwood. The little bit of Allie Hazelwood that I have read is it's so compulsively readable. And I don't think this is going to be any different. I am really curious after this one to read another one of hers that is not part of the Bride universe, because I want to see if the writing is similar to this one or if she changes it up for the different genres, I guess, of romance. It's messy. This book I can tell is going to be messy. So we'll see how, I'm not sure how I feel about messy, but we'll see how I feel as we continue on. So. All right, so I am in the parking lot at Aldi right now, and I had to bribe myself with caffeine to even get myself to go grocery shopping. I really need stuff for lunches for school because I have my job and I have longer days on Mondays and Wednesdays. So I will go bankrupt if I try and get food at school. And I'm also trying to eat healthy and get some exercise in. So packed lunches it is. I might bring you around in the grocery store. It just depends on how busy it is and how crazy people look at me. I live in the Midwest. There's not many people that vlog here, I don't think. So they might think I'm doing something weird if I vlog in the store. I honestly don't care at this point. We're all just on this planet. And I've been kind of really anxious today if I can be a little bit vulnerable. And if you don't want to hear this, I'll put on the screen when to skip to. But I do this dance of keeping myself informed on the things that are going on in our country, especially and around the world. But I also try to protect my peace a little bit because one human being can only do so much. Like, you can organize as much as possible, and you can make sure your friends and family and more vulnerable people of your community are safe, but there's only so much you can do living in an allegedly fascist country. It's just every time I see a headline, like things that ICE has done or our so-called president, things like that, it's really hard, especially as someone who deals with mental health stuff. And I'm not trying to make anything about me, but it's just like, I don't know if anyone else does this, where they try to keep themselves informed and do what they can on their end, but also meter how much you consume in a day. Maybe just like only give yourself 5 minutes to keep yourself updated, because it can fuck with you so much. Like, I try to make this channel an escape, and I'm going to continue to do that, but I also feel like things need to be talked about, and I hope that people try to band together in their local communities, because community is just so important in order to keep everyone safe. And just, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I'm going to go get groceries now. I am 57% of the way through Problematic Summer Romance, and I have no doubt that I will finish this book today. I am actually surprisingly really enjoying this. They are doing flashbacks to Connor and Maya's history together. I won't give anything away, but it's years of history. I'm really liking the look back into their past and how they came to know each other as adults and all of this. So I am really enjoying that. I'm liking Connor a lot more. He's trying to protect Maya. He feels like it's not wise for them to be together because she's so young. I think that's on the synopsis, so I don't think I'm spoiling anything. If anything, that's a very minor spoiler because it's a central theme that you find out very early on in the book. But he's been a little bit redeemed in my eyes, and some of the more egregious things that Allie Hazelwood has done in the beginning of the book have kind of gone away a bit, so there's not anything that's super annoying to me. Once again, this is compulsively readable, which I just think is Allie Hazelwood. With both of the Bride books, I was just flying through them. Like Bride and Mate, I was flying through both of them, and I think it's just Allie Hazelwood's writing. I do think she is pretty good at being descriptive. I have had a lot of issues, especially even recently, and part of why I DNF'd the last book that I was going to read for this vlog is that a lot of romance books, especially rom-coms, especially summer rom-coms for some reason, aren't descriptive enough, but I truly feel like I'm in Italy in the summer in this book, which is exactly what I wanted from a summer romance. I'm liking that aspect of it as well. And I think the story's fun. It's messy, and I didn't know that's what I wanted or needed at the time, but yeah, I like it. I like it so far, and I'm probably going to be finishing this today. So I don't have anything more profound to say about this, but I'm liking the writing. I'm liking the flashback chapters. I'm enjoying their interactions and just the setting itself and Allie Hazelwood's writing. So far so good. Let's hope it sticks a landing. Good afternoon. I really hope you like my new lights. I also moved a little bit of stuff around on my desk that I will show you in the next vlog, probably, if my desk is more clean. And I wanted to chat about Problematic Summer Romance by Hazelwood because I did end up finishing it last night, and this took me by surprise as to how much I enjoyed this. With a millionaire male main character and a lot of people with a lot of privilege, I wasn't sure if I was going to enjoy this. Everyone in this book is pretty much successful and happy mostly, and they're in Italy for a wedding and they can all afford it. So if that tells you anything, that's basically what this book is about. It is delightfully messy. I ended up finishing it and just being like, wow, that was an interesting read. The one thing that I haven't mentioned yet that I enjoyed throughout the entire book is that it was separated into days until the wedding, which I love a countdown. I thought that was really fun. That wasn't the chapters per se, but there were different parts. It's like 6 days until the wedding, 5 days until the wedding, and it was her brother's wedding, so it wasn't hers. The setting itself was beautiful, and I think Hazelwood did a really, really good job with putting the reader in that world and making you feel like you were there with the people. I'm not sure exactly how she did it, but I think she did it pretty well. I really bought into the history and chemistry of Maya and Connor. I think that the flashback chapters were done really well. And I love flashback chapters where there's like a secondary timeline in the past that each flashback chapter is going through it. And that's what Hazelwood did. I really liked how she wrote their complicated history. I was really worried going into this book that because there was such a large age difference, it had to be done pretty well because she was a grown adult and so was he, and she's very intelligent. She knows what she's getting herself into. It didn't freak me out or weird me out at all, especially because, at the current timeline in this book, Maya is 23, almost 24, so it didn't feel like she was being taken advantage of at all, especially because Connor was so insistent that he not take advantage of her. So I liked that. It was single POV, which I think that's all Hazelwood does. Maybe. No, she doesn't, because I'm pretty sure Mate and Bride were not single POV. I can't remember, but this one I believe was single POV, and I think that really worked really well for the story itself. I think only seeing it through Maya's perspective and having to figure out why Connor was acting the way that he did in certain situations, it worked well for the story, and I am not mad at it at all. Like I said, it was messy AF, and there's a lot of inter-friend group romances that were in the past or currently, and I did end up really liking all of the people. It wasn't just a bunch of white people in a room too. I don't think it was a pretty diverse friend group, which naturally that's what happens, so I don't understand why people don't write that into their books. It felt surprisingly realistic with the way that people interacted with each other, even though they were all privileged people. I do feel like the social interactions and the way people got along, I really enjoyed it. I liked that the issues that they had weren't all very stereotypical of like dating your brother's best friend. That's all I'll say about that, because I don't want to go too far into that. It's going to be a little bit of a spoiler if I do that. But yeah, I ended up really liking it. I ended up giving it 4.5 stars. It's not quite a 5 for me, unfortunately. There was just a couple of things that I didn't love. I did like Hazelwood naturally brought up the word hegemony in a book, and it worked for me. There were certain things where I do feel like she was just trying to flex her knowledge of science or other aspects of academia, but I overall really liked Maya as a main character. I can understand her motivations. I also understood Connor's. He really, for me, redeemed himself by the end. He really comes off in the beginning as just like an asshole, which I think that's probably what Hazelwood wanted. So if that's what you wanted, Hazelwood, it worked. I'm not going to be reading anything else for this vlog. I'm a little bit over rom-coms right now, especially summer rom-coms, and I want to end on a good note, having a 4.5. I still have not found a 5-star this year yet, but we are going to be working towards that, I hope. I'm going to be starting a new vlog very, very soon, probably today, maybe tomorrow, we shall see. yeah, I'm glad that I did this. Definitely gave me summer vibes and ended up helping me get through some crappy winter weather. It's actually warmed up a bit, which I'm trying to not think of it as just an issue with climate change and more just the universe knew I wanted it to be summer, so they gave me a little bit of a warm up. That's what I'm going to take away from this, because otherwise it's just depressing. But please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed my videos. I really, really appreciate it, and I am almost to 700, so if you want to race to be that 700th subscriber, that word is really hard to say, 700th subscriber, go ahead and subscribe before anyone else does, and I'll see you guys very, very soon in the next video. Bye!